You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
So much absconded in the 10,000 pages federal false flag subsidization program. For example, if you're thinking, you know what, maybe I don't have the nerve to do something crazy, we'll give you all the SSRIs and fluoride you need. If you're thinking, where do I get the money for these, fancy guns? Where do you think these, mentally ill McDonald's workers got the money from? In this economy, if you're wondering where to get money from, just go on the internet and say that you're having violent thoughts. All of our boys will swarm in there onto your Venmo account to send you money. Our best Discord groomers to your Discord account to give you all the instruction manuals, the quick rundowns and everything. Really, we're trying to make this as easy for you as possible, especially if you're a minority, if you're retarded in some way. We have all the affirmative action to get you on your feet. Before you get started, though, we don't want you to injure yourself in any way, at least not yet. You can do that after it's all said and done. Here's a little thing you gotta know about gun safety, first of all, is you want to be waving it in as many directions as possible at all times. Loaded. Check the chamber to make sure there's a bullet in there. Just have fun with it, really. Do it for me. Do it to save the white race. Hey, what's you guys? It's Stove here, just getting ready for the Pride Parade. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm just here getting ready to go to the Pride Parade, considering I'm going to a GSA meet pretty soon. So when you're kind of, playing around with a gun as you do, you should always be playing around with it. You want to keep your finger directly on the trigger.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's 3:09 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the 2nd of July, 2026. Welcome to the show. This is Gigaohm Biological. I come to you live out of the back of my garage in Bethel Park, the home of, I keep saying Matthew Crooks, but I guess it's actually Thomas Crooks. Supposedly you went to the same high school as my son. Strange stories, ladies and gentlemen. Strange stories.
Let's do it.
Sweaty palms.
This is so crazy. Like goosebumps. This is so crazy. I feel so nervous. Like, what in the world, man?
Sorry about that. That was very loud. Ladies and gentlemen, the fake anti-vax movement, that is your way out. That is your way to see the truth. Once you can understand what the fake health freedom movement was, you can pull your mind out of all of it. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to be here for this show today. It is, like I said, the second day of the year 2026. It's crazy to think about it. It's really actually crazy to think about it. There is a respiratory infection going around the house. We have coughing children and steaming machines and heaters and all kinds of concoctions being made and foisted upon each other. A bit of alchemy, if you will, and also just plain old cabin fever here. We need the schools to open up again, or at least we need to get the machinery back running. It's a little boring here, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best. The gyms are open today again. Thank goodness the gyms are open today. Yesterday was difficult. Unable to get to the hardwood. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not paying attention to Houstonic Live, I don't really know what you're watching. Make sure you catch up with him. I think he's doing a really good job in terms of complementing this effort to bring attention to the spectacular commitment to lies. That's all that's required for some of these people to get away with it. That's really the truth of things. They have been misleading the young on social media, and the way that they do it is they mislead their parents. They have these accounts on X, they have these accounts on other media platforms, and they mislead adults with the idea of those adults misleading their children. And people like Brett Weinstein are some of the worst actors on earth, definitely one of the worst frauds in America. Gain of function, autism spectrum disorder, the gender spectrum are all mythologies that they still require us to teach our children. So if you understand that trap, maybe you can raise children that don't grow up in it. That's really the trick. Hey, I'm human just like you. I think the way out is to learn biology, and the biology they ignore is, generally speaking, what I'm trying to make this stream all about. Should we put some more music on? Maybe we should. A little bit of Mike Vandenberg's mixtape there. Today on the show, Offit in 2026. I never know if it's 2 T's or 2 F's. That looks right to me. Is he keeping his story straight? That's the question I want to ask. I'm trying to coach you into better means of finding the truth. There is a way to use the internet and not be scarred by it mentally, but it requires active work. Biology's the way, but it's not going to be for free. It's not going to be for free. Anybody out there that thinks that that's a little disrespectful to the bird, I apologize. I'm fading that down as much as I can with trying to make it seem like I meant to do that. This is a new deck.
He's scheduled for 60 minutes next. He's going on French, British, Italian, Japanese television. People everywhere are starting to listen to him. It's embarrassing.
Don't forget, at one point in time, JJCouey and somebody by the name of Jessica Hockett or Woodhouse 76 and Jonathan Engler and a bunch of other shitheads were trying to pretend that the group Panda was like a relevant organization to getting, I don't know, the word out that pandemics aren't possible or something like that. And Jessica Hockett tricked me into thinking that I was presenting to the staff of Senator Ron Johnson, and also tried to convince me that JJCouey was a bad guy that she hated because he threatened to kill her or something like that. And what I realized by that elaborate performance that Nick and Jonathan and Professor Martin Engler or Martin Neal and Jessica Hockett did was they pretended to be listening to me about the fraud of virology, pretended to be listening to me about the fraud of infectious clones, and pretended to be listening to me about the sabotage of my life and reputation by this Wuhan cover-up book that you will see in a minute is not being sold by Tony Lyons or anyone, and there's a reason why it's not being sold. It's a reason why they don't have it up on their bookshelf behind them. Robert F. Kennedy does not have it there. He has the Tony Fauci book back there. He has Robert Malone's book back there because they don't want any attention on the Wuhan cover-up book anymore because it is a fraud. And one of the experts listed in the book, yours truly, is trying desperately to get the word out to some journalist with integrity anywhere on Earth that this is the story of the century. That the young son of Robert F. Kennedy has been used as an instrument of power since he was about 14. He was groomed, and now he's under the control of several people in his life, including Gavin DeBecker and Mary Holland and Brian Hooker and Meryl Nass and Robert Malone and all the other shitheads around him, including his wife. It's the worst kind of dark Truman Show you can imagine, probably with some macabre idea that they are permanently destroying the Kennedys, much better than just killing the two best male matriarchs or patriarchs. This is evidence of their meddling. This is evidence of what they did on X, because it was a performance that once I identified it and started calling it out for what it was, they blocked me, disappeared, and continued with their performance just without me as a part of it. And that's very possible only because social media works exactly like that. So I used to be a patch clamp physiologist. That means that I used to build, $500,000 microscope rigs with maybe a 4 wavelength laser and all the prisms necessary to switch between them. Sometimes I would have an automated or a mechanized switching mechanism that would allow rapid changing between multiple wavelengths in order to image multiple signals that were genetically transfected into the animal tissue that I was working on. And so I have about 25 years of experience in academia, and I have at least 10 years of experience working on animals that were acutely transfected using either an adenovirus or a direct application of RNA, depending on the application or the particular experiment I was doing or the particular prep I was testing. This sort of experiment, patch clamp physiology, is kind of a gold standard for cellular physiology, and so it's a technique that can be applied to a wide variety of preparations. You can work on dissociated cells from heart tissue and then claim you're doing, work on arteries. You could use that same preparation to test drugs in a lab. And so the almost endless way that this technique has been used to forward our understanding of membrane physiology, of electrophysiology in membranes, and of cellular physiology is hard to underestimate. This technique was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1991 to Bert Sackman and Erwin Nair. Bert Sackman knows me by name, and I bet if he's not dead, and he saw me on the street in Germany, he would remember me. I'm also colleagues with and worked as a postdoc in the laboratory of Edward and Maybert Moser. They would also know me on the street. And actually, when Edward accepted his Nobel Prize and gave his 1-hour lecture, my last name was on the screen for about 7 minutes, and somebody in the audience texted me with a picture to say, "Your name is on the screen right now, congratulations." So I'm not really Kevin McCairn or Jessica Rose or Christina Parks or Jessica or James Lyons Weiler or Suzanne Humphreys. I have an impeccable track record of academic excellence that includes working with multiple Nobel Prize winners using multiple Nobel Prize winning techniques. I'm an expert in optogenetics, this stuff that a lot of these clowns have been scripted to talk about with no expertise in it at all. I can't explain that other than to say that my expertise suggests that all of those people are scripted performers. Lee Merritt cannot be so clumsily discussing optogenetics for the last 3 years, also promoted on NPR as a misinformation provider, and be a normal, free-thinking patriot. She is a performer. It has to be. And my particular expertise allows me to make that declaration beyond a shadow of a doubt. Unlike Tucker Carlson or Ian Carroll or Candace Owens, who don't have an expertise upon which they can draw. They don't have a track record of experimental excellence available on PubMed that spans more than a decade that belies the expertise upon which they claim to draw. That's me. Because I'm not a podcaster, I'm a biologist. And I'm a kick-ass biologist. And they hired me at Children's Health Defense and thought that they could use me as a tool. And that's not how biology works. So yesterday I showed you a video of Tucker Carlson talking about the corporate private equity takeover of veterinary hospitals around the United States and how that's raising the cost of care and also lowering the standard of care or something like that. And of course, what's so ridiculous about this and Joe Rogan getting paid so much to do nothing, what's so ridiculous about this is, of course, the COVID pandemic is based on private equity controlled hospitals. The whole narrative where supplementary oxygen just kind of vanished from a list of toxic things, of dumb things to do, and was added to a protocol, and nobody at any of these corporate run hospitals could figure it out. That's scripted. That is spectacularly scripted. But what's more scripted is this ridiculous notion that this podcast is somehow, in the rank of priority things as a patriot trying to save the world, as I said yesterday, from the Muslims or the Jews or the bankers or the pedos or Epstein's handlers, or is it the Mossad? I mean, I don't even know anymore. It's so dumb. I also showed you a video yesterday of this, which is just comical. This is a sort of advertisement for the Maha Action Network, where they claim that they have the reach of 400 million followers, but they haven't been able to accomplish anything yet. Notice what book is not on the background. Anywhere in the background is this book. It's nowhere in this book. I mean, what's that book? What's this book? What, this one here? The Lies My Government Told Me? Melania? RFK? The Cause is Unknown? Where's this book? There's an ivermectin book up there. There's 3 Anthony Fauci books there, so it's not like they don't have room for this. They are not selling this book because this book is the evidence of the fraud. If you report on this book as an American journalist, you can report on the fraud because it was written in a fraudulent way by fraudulent people, and they're all listed in the book. All you would have to do is try to track them down, call them up, and ask them how the book was written, and they will tell you that, I signed an NDA, I can't tell you. Well, I'm telling you, it's fraudulent. It's fake. He's fake. The whole shit is fake, and this book was written solely to try and trick me into being their lab leak expert. And I figured it out during the writing of the book. I just didn't figure out the whole thing. I just knew that what was being told in this book was ridiculously certain, given it was false. And after I explained to them, dudes, we got to change this because this book really makes it seem like a lab leak is not only possible now, but it's possible in the future. And we know that's not true. That's why I'm quoted in the book as saying that. So that video is just terrifying because they're full of shit. They don't have the reach of 400 million followers, or they'd have more than 81 followers on Rumble. They'd have more than 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Mary Tally Bowden would have more than 500 subscribers on Rumble, more than 1,800 on YouTube. This is ridiculous. She was on Rogan. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these people are only being shown to the people who have clicked and indicated that they need to see these people. And then these people are performing an elaborate theater which implies that they are reaching millions of people and that the people that watch them are part of a movement that's roughly half of the United States. And that is absolutely freaking wrong. I'm sure of it. Where did my sound effects go? What the hell is going on here? Oh, I double-clicked on something. That's absolutely wrong. I believe that with all of my heart. The illusion that Steve Bannon has created with his magic, that Michael Flynn has created with his army, is an illusion of a conservative movement that spans nations and is composed of millions of people, and that's wrong. That's a lie.
Stop lying!
Dang it, it's always doing that to me lately. I don't know why. And so I don't think there's any better way to show the fraud other than to keep pointing it out, that you can take anyone's timeline, break it down, and it becomes absurd. And so what I did in the introduction today, without even playing the videos, is break down the timeline of somebody like Sasha Latipova. Now, Sasha Latipova is really not that interesting if you only think about her. Sasha Latipova becomes much more interesting when you think about her daughter, because her daughter was a 1 million subscriber YouTuber who threatened the YouTube CEO and lost that channel, and got interviewed by Alex Jones because of it, and did interviews with a lot of these other people like Laura Loomer and Milo Yiannopoulos and Stefan Molyneux and all these other fringe far-right actors before the pandemic. And that can't be by accident then, that all of those people found themselves streaming with people like Paul Cottrell and Kevin McCairn and John Goodman and John Cullen and all these really low-level people auditioning for places underneath Veritas, underneath, Candace Owens, underneath Nick Fuentes, and underneath Ian Carroll and anybody else who reaches that second level before you get to go on Joe Rogan, and then you get up to this next level where it's just all silly and it's not real. You show a spectacular commitment to the script. You show how you can take a script and make it your own and put your soul into it, and then they give you more scripts. Until some point you're as important as Dr. Drew, or you're as important as even Elon Musk and Peter Thiel or Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. So just think about this timeline, okay? We are now in 2026, which I can't even get on this graph because I still need to download 2025's data on pneumonia and all-cause mortality and fill that red line in for another year. So where we are now is at the side there, all the way at the end. There's no line there. So in 2019, there's this video. Listen to the video. Listen to the video. Maybe it's not going to play now. Let me just see. See if it's animated correctly just to make sure. Oh, yeah. So that... it should be working. I think it just was overloaded there. Going to get a little sunshine in the back window again. I apologize for that.
The media operation is not an end in itself. I'm not trying to say like, oh, we need to be here because we have a right to be here or something. I didn't choose media for any other reason other than it's an instrumental component in political power. And I guess that's the fundamental question, is this debate about whether we are about sort of fighting for this like libertarian society or something, like we have to fight to make people skeptical of government, or this idea that political power exists, and that's a reality of life, and force exists, and all these things are there. And if we want a society to be made in our image, we have to play. We have to play by the rules that are.
What I hear him saying is exactly what Robert Malone said when he was on stage with Soph's mom in January of 2023, that there are no morals, there are no ethics. The means justify the ends. That's it. It's done. And that means justifying the ends thing is a business analogy. It's a stupid analogy. It's a stupid analogy because it's supposed to apply to like business things, and like, I don't know, if your mom needs pills and you found some pills, at the store and you decided to steal them, do the means justify the ends or something like that? And this question is always spun in a stupid way because it's about business ethics. And I think you should be very clear about the fact that lying about who you are, lying about what's happening in the world, lying about the motivation of people in order to pretend that you are something that you are not because you want to win is what he's describing that an actor would do. And that's how they justify it, that it's okay if you're an actor. If public is a stage, then it's totally okay if everybody understands that. And basically, that's what Nick is now introducing her and her handlers to, is this concept of, how can you be like me? And he's already very rehearsed. You can hear it. It's not just because Nick is smart. It's also because Nick has been trained.
Are here. We have to be pragmatic
and really, just like Soph describes in 2024, he's out there recruiting people and working with somebody who's about to get on Alex Jones and be promoted because she's about to be scripted to do a stunt where she threatens the life of the YouTube CEO and loses 1 million subscribers, and it gets in all the newspapers, and she gets on Alex Jones. This is all part of that script. It's not by accident that occurs. Just like it's not by accident that her colleagues that are promoting her videos and in her videos include Laura Loomer and Milo Yiannopoulos and all these other people that are Bannon and Harvey Weinstein and Tucker Carlson and Mike Flynn associates.
Live in the real world. And if we want to have outcomes that we like in the society, we're going to have to fight for political power. We're going to have to wield political power. And there's really no way around that.
And Nick went into media because media is central to political power. He said it. It's just like Edward Bernays said. This is no joke here. This is not by accident. This is exactly what you would expect if this was a military scripted exercise and many of the actors were set up and already auditioned and already selected and set up before the pandemic started. Like, I don't know, Sam Harris and the Weinstein brothers and the intellectual dark web did.
And so I think, we can.
So in 2019, after this,
make people like the government, or
she's going to be a victim on Alex Jones, famous for threatening the YouTube CEO. She loses this 1 million subscribers. Then the pandemic starts, and Sasha Latipova decided to present to me in early 2022 with her, some batches are bad, and I'm working with this guy named Partykoper in the UK, which is a pretty funny name because it's Dutch for horse salesman. Like Robert Malone is a horse salesman, but she was working with some guy who apparently uncovered the batch thing in the UK, but his name was Dutch for horse salesman, Partykoper. I can't even say it. And so then in January of 2023, she was on stage with Robert Malone. Isn't that going to come in? Oh man, that should have come in over here. Then she was on stage with Meryl Nass and Robert Malone in Stockholm, Sweden. And then 4 times in a row, she was on CHD, and one time she was even on Epoch Times as a American thought leader. And in 2024, her and her daughter made that really exciting video where her daughter's talking about going to the Gay Pride Parade with an AR-15, and they actually took a selfie or took a picture together at the gun range just to make sure that all of us knew that Sasha was running the camera. It's almost laughable that picture exists, but it does. Wearing the same shirt and everything. And then in 2025, we're supposed to believe that she's on Redacted, and Redacted's trying really hard to do something good for America or something like that, and they wanted to talk to me a couple weeks ago. And what would have happened? Nothing. They would have talked to me, and then they would have talked to Sasha and forgot about Jay, and it would have been a week, nothing. Just like it was with Kim, just like it was with Dan, just like it is with everybody, because they don't have any way of prioritizing the message, even though every one of the actors that I've interacted with and identified as a traitor has a publicly available timeline that with no work at all, you can find connections that don't make any sense unless it's all one malevolent show. How can it be any other way if this timeline exists, if Kevin McKernan's timeline exists, if Jessica Rose's timeline exists, if my timeline exists, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s timeline exists, if Brandy Vaughn's timeline exists, if Tony Bark's timeline exists, if Mark Kulak's timeline exists, how can this be possible? Intramuscular injection of a combination of substances with the intent of augmenting human health is dumb. Transfection in healthy humans was always criminal. RNA cannot pandemic because viruses are not pattern integrities. Anything that alive is a pattern integrity that occurs at the interface between decomposition and composition and requires that interface in order to exist as a pattern integrity with a trajectory across time. That trajectory across time also would need to be encoded in some kind of genetic code, and yet we're not concerned about that at all because genetic code is just a tape, and it's a tape of proteins, and that's just dumb. Nobody says it's simpler. Nobody tries to put together an elevator pitch. That's because they are podcasters, and this is what it's like to podcast or try to interact and be a podcaster on social media and then go on somebody else's podcast and tell them what you think is important. You might as well get in this chair and fight the empire because you got as much chance of winning if you're sitting in that chair as you do if you're tweeting or if you're posting on Facebook or you're posting videos on YouTube, because that's just dumb. You cannot win on their platforms. You cannot win on their platforms. Weaponized piles of money have used scripted acolytes on their platforms to convince us what to argue about and with whom to argue. Participating in that argument accepts the premise of their narrative by default, and we are governed by a theater that spans mainstream media to all social media platforms, includes all sides of their mythology. That is the truth in a nutshell. They are all national security actors.
This is directly taken from the research of John Cullen and Jason Goodman, who did amazing work on this stuff. We all owe them a great debt on this.
We all owe John Cullen and John Goodman a great debt. These guys that interviewed me in September of 2022 and I told them the truth and then they did nothing with it are now being promoted by Ian Carroll today live on Tucker Carlson as relevant to the helicopters in Las Vegas. Again, we're talking about one day, a few people dead, and we're still talking about it. Nobody's saying India. Nobody's saying Peggy Hamburg. Nobody's saying Joshua Lederberg. Nobody's saying Estes Kefauver. Nobody's saying Alice E. Moore. Nobody's saying anything relevant. Nobody's saying what the hell is Robert Malone doing behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr. No one is saying why in the hell didn't Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Paul Offit come up with the 15-day experiment to prove that SIDS was or wasn't vaccines already a decade ago? Why not? Because they are scripted traitors. They are actors. They are traitors to the United States and our grandchildren.
Because they started to look. Where would they, are there helicopters around? And they stumbled across a thing called Operation Red Dawn. It turns out that for the entire month of August, the month before...
I'm not going to let this play. I can't do it. Today, I would like to watch a Paul Offit Wired video and take some notes with you, point some things out, and cut it short when I need to, and then I'll play us out with a song, and I'll see you tomorrow. But for now, we're going to listen to Mr. Paul Offit, who was on the Wired podcast about a week ago, answering questions about vaccine called Vaccine Support instead of IT support. It's pretty gay, and it's also pretty lame, very condescending. I don't think you're going to enjoy it, but I just want to kind of point out the kind of, oh, interesting. I don't know who that is. Just to try and point out the sort of absurdity that this man, so old as he looks on camera right now, has been fighting these people like Wakefield and Mary Holland since before the year 2000, and unfortunately, he's been unable to make any progress. I have every hostility over the tyranny over the mind of man. That is a Jefferson quote as far as I know. This is Gigaohm Biological, a high-resistance, low-noise information brief brought to you by a biologist. If you can, please go to gigaohmbiological.com and find a way to support this work. Podcasters are not real people. Podcasting is not a real job. I myself am not a podcaster. I'm a biology coach. Welcome to the show. Don't let yourself be podcasted. This is a podcaster here. His name is Paul Offit.
I'm Dr. Paul Offit, pediatrician and professor of pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. I'm here today to answer your questions from the internet. This is Vaccine Support. Happy Brit 17 asks, you do realize a lot of what we get vaccinated for.
Look how old he is. The only reason why you would need somebody that old, just like the only reason why you would need somebody like Tony Fauci that old for that long, is because you need somebody who understands the script. And it's hard to read somebody into this script, because intramuscular injection is dumb, and they are covering it up by using the meaningless term vaccine and the meaningless term vaccinology, and then calling themselves vaccinologists like he does.
Where our immune system could just fight off naturally. People love the word natural. There's nothing good about a natural infection. Mother Nature's been trying to kill us ever since we crawled out of the ocean onto land.
And the first imposed working assumption is that evolution occurred and we are descendant from animals that developed legs and walked out of the ocean.
Stop lying!
It's pretty funny. It could be true, but the certainty with which he presents it and the implications of that, meaning that we're, been fighting for our lives against pathogens like viruses for millions of years, is just...
Stop lying!
Wow. It's a faux pas.
I was a child of the 1950s. I had measles, I had mumps, I had German measles, I had chickenpox, and I survived every one of those infections. But
he survived every one of those infections, but he's not smarter because of it. It probably made him extremely dumb, right? It's very dangerous.
Not everybody did. Before there was a measles vaccine in 1963, every year, 48,000 children would be hospitalized with severe pneumonia or dehydration or inflammation of the brain, which could leave those children then blind or deaf. Mumps was the most common cause of acquired deafness. Rubella or German measles, when it infected pregnant women, would cause about 20,000 cases of congenital birth defects every year, manifested as blindness, deafness, or permanent heart defects. I was lucky I wasn't one of those 75 to 100 children who died every year from chickenpox, or the 10,000 who were hospitalized. So while many of us are able to survive a natural infection, some aren't. In fact, I actually don't like the term natural immunity. I'd prefer the term survivor immunity.
Survivor immunity. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I have survivor immunity from the flu like 1,000 times. I got survivor immunity from COVID like 1,000,000 times. I got survivor immunity from alien flu 1,000,000. Survivor immunity. What stupid shit is that?
Ravo 93 asks, has herd immunity ever been achieved without a vaccine? Herd immunity means a critical percentage of people around you have been vaccinated and are protected, so much so that it's very hard for that virus or bacteria.
But herd immunity is a term that's derived from modeling studies. Herd immunity is a term derived from modeling studies. Herd immunity is not a real thing that they discovered in nature, laying on the ground, or discovered on a farm when they watched cows for a couple years. That's ridiculous. And now he seems to be implying that. It's strictly from the SIR models. What is it? The very simple 2 or 3 models of infection and how they spread through a population that's naive, the stupid multiple bump thing. Like, it's really dumb, easy math. And the math and the model is based on the concept that herd immunity occurs when a certain number of individuals have resistance to spreading the disease. It's a model. It's not a phenomenon.
To get to you. Also remember, millions of people in this country can't be vaccinated because they're immune compromised. They can't be vaccinated because they have cancer. They depend on us to protect them, and they count. So herd immunity is important. But has a virus or bacteria ever been eliminated by natural infection? No. Smallpox, which was estimated to kill about 500 million people, was never eliminated until there was a vaccine. Polio in the United States would every year cause tens of thousands of children to be paralyzed and thousands to die. That was eliminated in 1979 because of a vaccine.
So he keeps saying because of a vaccine, but he doesn't tell you where the vaccine was placed. And that's the reason, because vaccine is a meaningless word. He can't tell you that by using the word vaccine. That's how it's designed. If I keep saying I took a vehicle to Knoxville, Tennessee to see the CHD conference, then I took another vehicle to Georgia to the second CHD conference, then I took another vehicle home, you don't know whether I flew or I drove or I skateboarded. And if then I say, well, all vehicles are safe, you don't have to worry about whether I took a motorcycle or a tank or an airplane or a slingshot. And so think of another context where a word as aspecific and meaningless as vaccine can be used by somebody with such authority. It's remarkable when you see it. But that's because he is a scripted actor who has been rehearsing this shtick for almost 20 years under the pretense of it being a national security priority.
So only vaccines have the capacity to eliminate these viruses. Herd immunity won't do it. In 2014, 2015, there was a measles outbreak that started in Southern California. It then spread to other states. It affected hundreds of people. Richard Pan was a state senator in California that was embarrassed that his...
I'm sorry, but Aaron Siri is exactly the same fraud as Paul Offit. They are harmonizing. They're like a barbershop quartet from hell. If you think that Aaron Siri is singing the song and Paul Offit's trying to interrupt it, you are lost. In fact, you're trapped in the exact siren song that they intended you to be trapped in. That's why they mesh so well. That's why both him and Aaron Siri have never been able to come up with the 15-day experiment, the double-blind placebo-controlled trial that they could have applied to any or all single or combinations of shots to test the acute effects of these devices. But they didn't. They never came up with that experiment. They just agreed to disagree. And this guy has been arguing that placebo-controlled trials would be amoral, and Aaron Siri's been saying they haven't done a placebo-controlled trial. I guess we're at an impasse. Aaron Siri can look up all the papers that he wants to, as long as he keeps using the terms and going to the administrative court that he's told to go to and making the arguments he's told to argue, then he will never be a real man. Because he's not talking about strict scrutiny. He's not trying to get the PrEP Act struck as unconstitutional. And so just like Sasha Latipova, the scripted shithead, who says it's the PrEP Act, but can't seem to come up with any way that the American system could get rid of such a law. It looks like we're going to have to elect a lot of congressmen in order to change that law, when in fact that's absolutely positively ridiculous. It would take one court case to get thrown out of a circuit court because the judge says, well, you can't sue because of the PrEP Act. And then another federal judge to say, well, that's unconstitutional because that's unconstitutional, so I'm going to strike the law. It's that simple. Now, is there a court where it could get bounced up to a second-level federal circuit, and then is there a federal circuit that could happen in? I don't know. But I know that is a very easy way to get close to the possibility of striking the PrEP Act for unconstitutionality, and that is a proposal that all the lawyers at CHD and all the lawyers at ICANN and all the lawyers at Brownstone Institute have failed to come up with after between 20 and 5 years of working on this problem. That means that Bobby Ann Cox is a fraud at Brownstone. That means that Mary Holland and Ray Flores are frauds at CHD. That means that Paul Offit is a fraud. It means that Aaron Seary from Goldman Sachs is a fraud.
The state had been the epicenter of this outbreak. So he wanted to eliminate the philosophical exemption to vaccination in a state that never had a religious exemption. If he was successful, that would have meant that the only exemptions in California were medical exemptions. The anti-vaccine activists hated this.
Oh, they sure did. And who was the leading anti-vaccine activist in California for this story? It was Brandy Vaughn. Yes, it was. The girl that was killed in December of 2020, and then all of her friends just podcasted without her, talking about PCR tests and stuff, right, Brian Hooker?
They showed up in droves to decry this particular attempt to eliminate the philosophical exemption for vaccination. There was a little boy who showed up at those meetings. He had leukemia, and so he would stand up at those meetings, and they would have to put him on a stool because he didn't reach the microphone. And he was...
It's so gross. He's so proud that they use children.
Say his name. I have leukemia. I can't be vaccinated. I depend on you to protect me. Don't I count? And he stared right at these anti-vaccine activists when he said it. He was a brave little boy, and he had everything to do with how it came to be that California now only has a medical exemption to vaccinations. Only the children are brave, and women. Children are women. Forget us. Lefty Maddie asks,
See how salty he is about it? Like, he's so nasty.
How do you deal with anti-vaccine parents? First of all, I think it's reasonable to be skeptical of anything you put into your bodies, including vaccines.
Oh, so anything that you put into your body, you should be skeptical of. But he's not worried about how you put it in. He doesn't care if it gets shoved up your butt or put in a hamburger. You could snort a line. You could, I don't know, I guess you could tattoo it in. You can certainly inject it in your fat of your glutes, and you can also inject it intramuscularly, or you can inject it IV. He doesn't care. You should be skeptical of anything that you put in your body. It's almost as if he's a scripted dumbass and can't tell the difference between, different ways of putting things into your body. Like when I put a jelly bean into my body like this, I get a jelly bean and I put it into my body and I masticate, and then my saliva starts going, and then I start swallowing it, and then stuff starts to happen down there. And the whole time what I just put in my mouth is not inside me at all. Then it has this long interaction with my microbiome that's trapped right there in the middle of me. Had an interface between decomposition and composition, and then it goes out the other side. So technically it's never in my body. And so this man is a scripted fraud, pretending that these issues are very simple and that these frauds are just simple liars. But that wouldn't make any sense, because that means that he's been unable to beat simple liars with the simple truth for 25 freaking years.
I think I would divide this group up into two. One are parents who just are scared. They read things that are frightening on the internet. Are vaccines causing cancer or heart disease or autoimmune disease? Is that possible? And those people have questions, and you just try the best you can to answer those questions and not to in any sense deny their fear. Their fear is real, and you can't sort of deny it by just saying, well, that's silly. You have to accept that that is a real fear, and that you have to try and provide them with information that calms that fear down. The second group of parents, and this is a much smaller crowd, are people who just think there's a conspiracy to sell vaccines. They think you're part of that conspiracy, and there's really nothing.
It's not about selling the vaccine. It is about access. It is about sovereignty over your body, just in the same way that it's sovereignty over your children or not. All of these things are incremental pushes. And he's been a part of it for 25 years. That's why he's old and wrinkly and still doing it. That's why Tony Fauci was old and wrinkly and still doing it. Because when you're lying, when you're doing a performance, when it's a soap opera, you can't just replace the star of the show after 36 years with a different actor. It won't work. Do you remember Hope on Days of Our Lives? How long was she on that show? Was she on that show for like 50 years? When I was a child and my mom was watching Days of Our Lives, Hope was the hottest lady on that show. And 30 years later, she's still the prettiest one. I don't know what's going on. It's the same thing here, except it's not a soap opera where it's just an actor dedicated, to his role.
You can say to make them feel better about this because they think you're just an instrument for the pharmaceutical industry. I usually don't spend a lot of time talking to those folks because there's no point wasting their time and mine. Kirko asks, how was the smallpox vaccination campaign so effective that the disease was completely eradicated when the smallpox vaccine had very real side effects? So there are two different kinds of viruses. There's viruses that have short incubation periods.
No, there's two different kinds of vaccines. There's vaccines that are applied to the skin and orally, and then there's the shit that we've decided to inject intramuscularly. And the smallpox vaccine went very wrong when it was injected intramuscularly. It was fine when it was applied to the skin. That's a fact, and I can prove it with real books on the shelf. This is stupid. Smallpox wasn't killing a lot of people because books on the shelf over there say that it didn't kill anybody. It just left scars. Just like chicken pox, it didn't kill a lot of people. This is bullshit. And you need to learn your history by reading real books you can hold in your hand. Otherwise, you're taking people's word for it. And you don't want to take scripted national security actors' words for anything nowadays.
It's like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. SARS-CoV-2, the cause of COVID, rotavirus, influenza, respiratory syncytial virus has short incubation periods. Then there's the long incubation period diseases, German measles or chickenpox or smallpox. You can eliminate those diseases. You don't need antibodies in the circulation at the time you're exposed. All you need is memory cells, which have plenty of time to become activated and make antibodies well before.
Now that's an extraordinary level of certainty with regard to the different pathologies of these different viruses. It is a remarkable level of certainty that he claims to have. And that certainty is supposedly based on thousands of books, thousands of book pages, including a huge book that him and Plotkin wrote. And I'm going to make the contention that the vaccine schedule in America is a criminal enterprise, but not in the way you've been misled, either by him or by Aaron Siri and the rest of those shitheads.
You get sick because it's a long incubation period. So you can eliminate smallpox, which we did by 1980. You can eliminate polio from this country, which we did by 1979. You can eliminate measles, which we did from this country by 2000. You will never eliminate rotavirus or SARS-CoV-2 or RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, or flu because they are short incubation period diseases. That's one critical difference. And I think we could have done a better job of explaining that actually regarding the COVID vaccine, because while COVID vaccine will protect against severe disease, which is the goal, it's never going to protect against mild or moderate disease for long. So the smallpox vaccine certainly had real side effects.
Why would he need to do this podcast if it's been true for 25 years? Why would he keep needing to repeat himself and correct the same people for 25 years unless it's a malevolent military national security script with military scripted actors? It is the CDC. A military organization. It is.
And smallpox vaccine could occasionally cause fatal side effects, it's true, but smallpox was a feared and devastating illness. One of the reasons we were able to eliminate it is there's no such thing as asymptomatic smallpox. Everybody who has smallpox will have lesions or blisters on their face, and with that, you can kind of put a moat around the virus, meaning not only the person who has it, but the person who they had contact with. And that's why you can essentially eliminate that. Umu Aw asks, to the doctors on the timeline, what is the purpose of all the vaccines babies are given, polio, rotavirus, etc.? Vaccines are given to prevent diseases that cause children to suffer or be hospitalized or die. And when they are introduced, those diseases are rampant. Polio, for example, in the 1950s caused as many as 58,000 children to be paralyzed and 1,800 to die every year. Because of the polio vaccine, we eliminated polio in 1979. So you could ask, why do I still need this vaccine? Polio is gone from this country. Well, it's not gone from this world. And if you choose to lower immunization rates, it'll come back. And that happened in in 2022 to a 27-year-old man in Rockland County, New York, who never left this country, who was paralyzed by polio. And that virus that paralyzed him really only paralyzes 1 in every 2,000 people it infects. So he was the tip of a much bigger iceberg. And indeed, you found the virus that infected him in wastewater samples where he lived, which is in Rockland County, New York. You found it in surrounding counties. And if you looked in Philadelphia or you looked in Chicago and looked in the wastewater there, you would also find this virus.
It's strange, right? Because the only way it spreads is if you get poop in your mouth. It's almost like using toilet paper is actually really stupid and it's a joke on us. You ever thought about that?
Virus. We eliminated measles from the United States by the year 2000. Eliminated it. Gone. Nonetheless, this past year, we've had thousands of cases of measles. We've had 3 people die, including 2 children die. So I think if we let our guard down, these viruses will come back. I think we ask a lot of parents in this country. We ask them to give vaccines to prevent 14 different diseases in the first few years of life. That can mean as many as 5 shots at one time to prevent diseases most people don't see, using biological fluids most people don't understand. I think that people are pushing back against vaccine makes sense. I'm a child of the 50s. I had many of these diseases. I had measles, I had mumps, and for about 6 weeks, I was in a polio ward in suburban Baltimore. So I know what these diseases look like. But my children are children of the 90s. They don't see these diseases, and they didn't grow up with these diseases. And it's the same is true for young physicians. And so
there's no way to explain how it is that this man was unable to come up with the 15-day experiment that would have tested SIDS and tested the acute autism claims of people like Polly Tommy and Andrew Wakefield and Mary Holland and Brian Hooker, but he couldn't come up with it, and instead he's still saying that Andrew Wakefield's the bad guy now. And that is impossibly dumb. And that has got to be the script of the dumbest sitcom ever produced, and it is in fact the trap we are in. The way out is to log off. You don't need to delete your account, you just need to log off and delete the app from your phone. Thank you very much for being here. I will see you again tomorrow.
top. I live upon morsels you happen to drop. Coffee that somehow leaks out of your cup. If nothing comes down, then I'm forced to swim up. On the way upwards, the colors come back. But all on the bottom is blue, gray, and black. The darkness is cold and perception goes wrong. And the night seems to go on incredibly long. So I ask you why. Don't you see anything that you'd like to try? Pantomime mixtures of heaven and earth. Jumbled events that have less than no worth. Tunnel in the forest to dig under rocks, or float in the ocean, asleep in a box. Or sink just below all the churning and froth. swim to the light source or fly like a moth. So toss away stuff you don't need in the end, but keep what's important and know who's your friend. So I ask you why I'm swimming by. Don't you see anything that you like to try?
to the American people. She's a hero to all mankind. The last thing I want to say, when Dr. Li Mingyang left Hong Kong in the middle of the night because of the great work of the Rule of Law Foundation, the Rule of Law Society, the great heroes there and supporters, she defected and came out with tremendous danger to herself. When she first got here, I think we spent 3, 4, 5 days in due diligence with lawyers and scientists and all of that. And I have to say about her personal journey, she was very meek, very shy. The woman that was on the stage tonight was so shy and so demurred. I got to tell you, 1 year of breathing the fresh air of freedom has... We have to get her citizenship because we need her to run for the United States Senate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Next thing that I want to say is our lack of biological knowledge and the general poor health of America, of the American people, is being used to create the crisis they need to divide and conquer us, to ruin maybe America, I don't know, crash the dollar, I don't know, steal the rest of our what limited treasury value we have left, I don't know. But I know for sure that they are combining our lack of biological knowledge and our general society's lack of good health and access to health care to create a crisis to usher in all kinds of changes that would otherwise never be necessary and, more importantly, never be possible.